If you were watching a news report 10 years ago, you would see something like this. A news reporter pacing around in front of a sometimes insignificant background, telling you what they think you should know. If you're watching a report on war, I would tell you what the media enterprises or the government need you to know. For the rest, of course, the raw facts would be censored. If you turned on your television to watch the mainstream media in 2014, you would see images of war, such as these.
Explosions. Gunfire.
But our convoy was hit by a roadside bomb.
These are scenes from Richard Engel's tenure as a correspondent.
And much is in an area where civilians are still living. And of course, among the ruins, we found a French book, and somebody's studying English, the life of William Shakespeare.
This woman lost 4 of her children inside the initial quake, and then lost her 5th and final child at the hospital.
While U.S. forces were securing the site.
At one point, Engel traveled everywhere with armed guards and was able to survive without being kidnapped or landing in a hospital with shrapnel wounds.
I ask her where the front line is, but she brushes off the question, saying she's become accustomed to the shelling.
His marriage, and how questions about his safety were a constant concern at NBC. Engel says the ups and downs of the Iraqi people are similar to the emotional roller coaster he was on.
We're just lucky. I mean, I've got a guy, Chris Pontius, with me who is making a live shot run off a car battery with just what he can carry on his back.
Continue to cover Iraq as part of it.
Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News, Chicago.
The director of this orphanage says what they miss most is tenderness, their mother's touch.
That was the world as we saw it through mainstream media.
The G20 summit 10 years ago was an event everyone was cautious of due to high terror alerts, but no one ever really expected something horrific to happen like it did. With such a long run of ISIS propaganda videos, graphic content shared online, and videos and threats of beheadings, people grew suspicious of the once celebrated event and feared their safety. Although media and government reassured the public that our security was on high alert and nothing bad would happen, something did. It is thought that ISIS followers somehow passed security by posing as volunteers, and when all of the most important people in the world gathered in one space, the city of Brisbane was overwhelmed with smoke and rubble after what seemed like a very short and sudden earthquake to surrounding areas. Nobody within the building of the blast survived, meaning nobody was caught, and this horrific moment is what has caused the evolution of the Queensland and Brisbane we know today. We became a rebel state uprising against the government and mainstream media. People were fed up with being kept in the dark from the truth of the situation, with extreme censorship and carefully constructed news. The people wanted more, and so they began investigating and creating their own media. Raw and graphic iPhone footage being posted on social media sites, civilians interviewing civilians. Although this was already happening before, this became journalism, and people are now relying on these sources for their local and national news. Mainstream media is continuing to cover and broadcast current affairs, but ratings are rapidly declining, and people are flocking to sites like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter to find the uncensored, unedited news stories. With the high censorship and careful editing of mainstream news, people are becoming suspicious of edited material, and the decline of finely tuned and well-researched articles and reports is leading to a future that doesn't include the journalism we formerly knew.
Welcome back to 2040 Radio. We are here today with elite citizen journalist Zane Andrew discussing the new face of journalism. So obviously the face of journalism has changed over the past 20 years quite drastically. Can you just paint us a rough picture on what's actually happened?
Since the G20 bombings, there has been a lack of trust in the government due to the amount of censored content from traditional forms of media. Citizen journalist reportings from the G20 uncovered the truth, thus beginning the revolution of citizen journalism.
So as an elite journalist yourself, you're celebrating a pretty big victory this week. Do you want to just elaborate on that for us?
Yes, this week we saw the collapse of traditional journalism with the last television broadcast to go to air. This is completely due to the drastic increase in citizen journalism. Since the G20 bombings, traditional forms of radio, print and television media have become extinct, once again due to the select censorship by the government.
So obviously this is a battle that the government is losing. What have they been doing to try and prevent citizen journalism?
The government is still attempting to develop software to block content such as this popping into our online feeds. However, it is hard to monitor what is now roughly 10 billion people's online feeds. In time, they are hoping to invent a program that is able to scan your video content as they now do with posts, articles, images and statuses.
The public won't be very happy with that. In time, what can the public expect from citizen journalists?
The public can expect the whole truth from citizen journalists. We believe they deserve to know the complete truth, and we are currently trialling immersive journalism techniques, such as new models in drone journalism coming soon.
That's what we like to hear. You heard it here first on 2040 Radio.